Hi, welcome
Scott.
to Jake. Welcome to Yamaha Guitars, my guitar breakthrough. I'm Scott Marceau, artist relations manager, and I am joined by my buddy Jake Eddy. How's it going, Jake?
Hey, man. Good. How are you? It's good to see you. Even though
Good to
you're in there, it is still great.
You're there. Uh, we're looking at the same screens. Basically, just want to say, hey, how you doing? Where are you reporting from today?
I'm home, man. I'm reporting from living room one here in at home. It's great. I am home for a week. I kind of mentioned that right before we started, but I'll be here for a weekish, which is really it feels like a long time lately. So it's really good.
And so people know, where is home for you?
Yeah, Parkersburg, West Virginia is where I'm from. So I'm, on the Ohio border in West Virginia, basically. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. And then, we wanted to ask, how did you first get connected with Yamaha? Why are we even here talking with you?
Yeah, well, I guess, and you would know better than me, but I'm pretty sure our first interaction at all, I guess, was not with you, with someone else, but was at Fretboard Summit, I think, last year. And so I had stepped in and played, a show there for Jason at Fretboard, and I met you guys. I guess maybe you were a sponsor or just had a booth there, but I met some guys there and played some guitars and said, "Hey, these are great." And they do the usual thing of everyone. They give you a card and they say, "Oh, we'll send you one or we'll call you," which is usually it's not true, but it's great. And they did. They sent me one and I really loved it. And then we did, a bunch of things after that. I think IBMA and it just snowballed. So
Yeah, it's been great. So, this show is about breakthrough moments. So maybe let's get to that kind of first. Like, what was like a breakthrough moment for you, either professionally or playing wise, that really kind of took you to a next level?
man, that's a good question that I guess I should have thought more about. For me, I think a lot of the breakthroughs, I can look at it through two kind of lenses. The first, musically, the first, a big musical breakthrough I think that comes to mind, just on a nerd level, was, stuff about implying harmony. So, like, if we're playing a chord with three chords, playing a song with three chords, rather, that I could kind of, force 20 chords of harmony within that structure and stuff like that. So reharmonizing and kind of superimposing triads and chords and stuff like that. That was a musical breakthrough for me because it gives you a lot more life in the improvising. You're not just playing over three chords, right? You might be playing over 10, and it could change every chorus depending on how well you know your way around. So that's kind of just a surface level thing. And then a little deeper than that, the breakthrough for me, another one, I guess, was when I figured out, like when I started to figure out what it meant to make a living playing music, because I played all my life and stuff, but when the rubber, kind of met the road and I quit school and all that, the breakthrough was like, oh man, there's a lot of musicians that are not multimillionaires and they're not homeless either, right? There's something in between. And there's a lot of middle-class artists and that when you figure out, for me, just figuring out ways to make it work and to be a musician full time, even when it was not as easy for me as it is now, like that was a big breakthrough, just realizing that, hey, you can make a comfortable living. You don't have to be a pop star and you don't have to be broke. That was huge for me. And, and it was encouraging for me to see artists that were making a comfortable living playing music, and especially artists that were kind of relatively unheard of, but you're like you meet students, you meet people on the road that are playing full time and you've never even heard of them. And you're like, well, to me, that's encouraging. It's great that, that's still possible.
Yeah, I think,
yeah.
That's great. Yeah, no, I think that what you just said was really inspiring. I mean, I always felt the same growing up, and I figured, for me personally, like getting to work behind the scenes was my way. But for artists, yeah, I think it can be intimidating when, yeah, you're used to seeing poverty or multimillionaires, and it's a little intimidating. And how old were you when this was kind of going on in your head?
See, now probably. I got my first taste of it when I was super young. So I'm still young, Scott. I'm 23. I don't know if you realize this. Oh, no, you probably do. But I was talking to a student about this the other day. If you're someone who's, say, 30 years old, you've got roughly 10 years of adulthood, right, ish, under your belt, 18, 20 to 30. And I took my first touring sideman gig when I was a kid, when I was 14. So
Wow.
I considered myself, like, I felt grown then and forward, you know. So I mean, I was making some of those realizations back then, but really specifically, I think when I was all finished with school, and where, you know, you have some people saying, oh man, like, you can be an artist and go be a professional musician, and you have some saying, well, maybe you should have a backup plan, or maybe, you know, it's hard to be an artist or whatever. And so it's a scary thing, but I think finding that, yeah, seeing these middle class artists and these, you know, working creative people was helpful for me. Maybe when I was like, yeah, 16, 17 specifically.
Wow. And then after high school, did you go straight to the road, or did you try college, or?
I went to music school, yeah, for maybe a year and a half in total, you know, but I wasn't, my attendance was not good. My grades were worse, really. Because I'd already had a taste of doing the road and playing gigs and stuff. So I was playing shows and things like that, but it just wasn't, you know, there were times when, like, not only me, but other students would get reprimanded for playing gigs and missing a class or whatever. And it's like, not that I thought the rules shouldn't apply to me, but it's like, if we're going to music school, you know, let us play. And it just wasn't the case. And you know, I have a whole thing about, you know, why I don't think that's always the best decision for musicians. We don't have to get into it, but it was super freeing when I stopped doing that and just went back to what I knew, which was like, yeah, playing shows and teaching and you know, just making it work the old school way.
Yeah, for sure. And something I love about your playing is, you know, it's just so inspiring to so many different styles of guitar players. And I wonder, when do you think bluegrass and roots started permeating more into guitar culture?
Man, I don't know, but I think the main thing is, like, some of your most virtuosic kind of guitar players in the world usually come from kind of the bluegrass or the jazz scene, you know. Well, I guess kind of metal has some elements of that, right? You see these shredders and stuff, but not all styles of music have really proficient, you know, instrumentalists. And not that that's always needed either. Like, if you're a singer songwriter or something, you don't, you know, you don't need to shred. That's not part of the equation. But you know, I think, like, to kind of speak, I guess, to what you're asking, not exactly, but a lot of what I've noticed lately is that most of the people that come to see my shows are less bluegrass specific and more fans of guitar. You know, so I'll meet people at the show that say, "Oh man, this is great! Like, we get to see you tonight, and we're going to see Mark Knopfler tomorrow." Right? It's like, to me, that seems so strange, because it's like, I've just been a bluegrass kid forever, but yeah, I mean, thanks to, like, the whole thing of guitar becoming its own genre, that's made things a lot easier for me.
Yeah, I bet.
Even though I'm not necessarily one of them, I don't, you know, I don't think I relate to a lot of that. Like, I don't really listen to guitar music, um,
What are you
but
listening
thank
to?
God for them.
What are you listening to right now?
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. What are you listening to right now?
Oh, right now, let's see. I'll pull up my most recent, like, couple. But always some jazz is in there. Okay, so, like, I've been listening to this Andy Irvine and Paul Brady album. Do you know this one? Well, that's not going to show up.
Or you
Whatever.
can look it up. Yeah, I
It's
haven't
like
heard of that.
yeah, it's great. Been listening to this record called Lost Boy by Bruce Molsky. It's like old time tunes, fiddle and old time banjo. And then on the jazz side of things, I've been really into this John Coltrane Quartet Plays album. I've been into, gosh, Walking the Line, Oscar Peterson is something that's been in my rotation a lot lately. Yeah, I mean, man, for me, it's always a lot of bluegrass, but also a lot of jazz, kind of more like post bebop stuff, like a lot of the Coltrane and on. And then I also just still really love old time and folk music, like just a, you know, like Norman Blake. You hear Norman Blake just singing with the guitar. Like, to me, that's great stuff. And I'm just trying to listen all the time, man. I mean, as much of anything as I can get my hands on.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, it's important to listen. And with your style, like, I've heard some lead guitar players, you know, maybe more electric, talk about how their leads are kind of like, you know, it's like a speaking voice.
Yeah.
and they're making they're telling their story with this solo, and with bluegrass and what you do, it's so I don't know if kinetic's the right word, but there's a lot of energy and it's fast. So like, what do you think you're saying through those solos you do?
Man, I don't know. Probably just screaming as loud and as hard as I can. No, if really, to me, it's more about just interpreting all the stuff that I've listened to before, you know. So rather than being someone who like, I mean, I write tunes. I have albums with original stuff, and people like those tunes and whatever. But I view myself as more of an interpreter. So anything I'm playing is like just, you know, old material, old vocabulary, just through the lens of all the other things that I've listened to, you know? So it's, I'm just trying to play stuff that's almost played out. You know, this material has been played and covered by so many people. But you know, it's important for me to try to have an honest voice when playing it and also just some unique perspective. But what am I trying to say specifically? I'm just trying to honor the great players I heard growing up and players that inspire me, you know, more than anything.
That's awesome. What do you think are some, as such a great player like you are, what do you think are some tips or techniques that, you know, you kind of use in bluegrass, but you think any kind of genre could maybe benefit from some of these techniques?
Yeah, well, I mean, the main thing, and I tell this to students of all walks of life, is that defer to your ears and defer to like the physicality of playing. So if it feels bad, something needs changed, right? I can't say what specifically, but if your thumb hurts, your wrist hurts, your elbow hurts, then check it out, right? Don't let it go on for a long time. Posture is a big part of that too for me. And then, you know, the other thing is like talking about deferring to your ears. Every musician out there has some inkling about things that sound good and sound bad. You know, and I think for me, the reason I've been successful is that I have no problem taking a stance on something and saying, I like the way this sounds, I'm going to lean into this, or I don't like the way this sounds, I'm going to stop doing it. Because I trust my own taste, you know, and I think a lot of musicians don't, and that they look to someone else for an answer about how they should be playing or how they should sound. Whereas I'm just trying to make myself happy more than anything. And you know, trust in my own kind of identity as an artist. So I guess what I'm getting at is just, you know, it sounds corny, but like just believing in yourself, not in yourself, but in your tastes, you know what you like and dislike and be willing to kind of die on that hill.
That's great.
Yeah.
A question we got from one of our followers, Jacob, he was asking, what is the best way to truly keep that bluegrass rhythm alive? So maybe think of that great rhythm right hand you have, and what's
yeah,
bluegrass rhythm alive?
Well, yeah, I mean, just on a surface level, like rhythm playing, best way to keep traditional bluegrass rhythm playing alive is to transcribe players that do it really well. Transcribe, you know, like transcribe your favorite old time rhythm players, right? Try to do right by them. Even guys like Del McCurry is a great rhythm player. Lester Flatt, Don Reno, right? These kind of Red Allen, guys like that. Jimmy Martin, Tony Rice, Clarence White. And then on a broader scale, if you just mean it like that good old bluegrass sound, like how do you keep it alive? And it's kind of the same answer, but just you know, you can honor the tradition of the music and also be kind of pushing it forward, and that's a gentle balance for me. But understanding and respecting those like old pioneers of the style, while also you know, letting your kind of more modern nuance inform your playing as well. But it all goes back to like what I said about deferring to your ears. If you want to play better bluegrass rhythm, listen and transcribe great bluegrass rhythm players. You know, you're not gonna figure it out on your own.
Okay, so really listening to what you like and then breaking down what they're playing,
Yeah,
note by note, can really help.
Well, doesn't that seems like common sense? Like it should, that you should listen to things that inspire you and take cues from them. But you know, I don't know. That's always made sense to me. That's because really, man, I like music. I like listening to music even more than I like playing it, I think, on some level. So it hasn't been an issue for me to like continue listening. That's what I love to do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So more, almost bigger than guitar is just your love of music. And,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like if I had a student the other day who was kind of joking about how when people say, You know, like when I was growing up, I said I was going to play music for a living. People say, well, what if your hands get cut off or injured? Like, what will you do? And like the joke is, well, what would anyone do, right? A surgeon
Right.
can't do surgery with no hands. But I got to thinking, I was talking to Taryn, my wife, about this. If I didn't have arms or hands or whatever, I couldn't play guitar anymore, I would absolutely just go into probably singing or like that jazz vocalese stuff where they like take solos with the, you know, like scat singing and stuff like that. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think the guitar is the tool, but it's all driven by just, I love music and I want to be a part of it, you know?
No, it's great. Speaking of tools, maybe let's talk about the FG9.
Yeah.
That's our newest kind of top of the top, best quality build from Japan. And it was really a groundbreaking project for us. And to have you and Jordan Tice and some other artists who were just really deeply involved with kind of the first artist to hear the guitar and give us some feedback, and then just working with you has been great. So maybe talk about the FG9 as a tool and and how it sounds to you and where you think it fits in.
Well, it's great. First off, I love it. And like when I posted this thing about ask me questions, you know, for Yamaha, people were like, this one guy wrote and said, do you really like it or do they pay you to like it? And I said, dude, no, I really like it, right? I'm not paid to like it. I think it's great. And the reason I think it's great, I've said this in like 100 interviews already, that it doesn't try to sound like something that's already been made. It's not like, oh, it tries to sound like an old Martin. It doesn't try to sound like an old whatever. It sounds like a brand new guitar with a really unique voice that is perfect. It's so complementary to the old guitars I have. And it's, you know, it's great to me because it's like the other flavor. You know, I have some old guitars that I really like, but they, you know, a lot of them serve kind of a specific purpose. So, but the Yamaha is a little bit like, it records really well. I've played it on a bunch of country sessions. I've played it on a bunch of bluegrass stuff that's a little more modern. You know, and it's just, it's different in a good way. It's refreshing. It's like not that same old thing that everybody that makes a new guitar, they're like, this sounds just like a pre-war whatever. And then which I love those things, but it's just, it's played out. Like to me, I want to have the real deal old one, and I want to have a new one that sounds brand new. And you know, I don't want a new one that sounds old. I don't want an old one that sounds new. It's two different sounds to me, and I'd like to have both. So, and the Yamaha is totally exceeding my expectation for that new guitar sound. I'm really loving it. I've been playing it. I mean, I play it at the studio like every, you know, a few times a week at least.
That's awesome. I'm glad it's become, you know, part of your sound and it's in your toolbox. It's in your utility belt.
Definitely. And that's the thing. Like, you know, I used to be kind of a one guitar guy for a long time, and you can find all this stuff online of me being like, I only need one guitar. I only need this one D18 forever or whatever. And it's like, I have gotten away from that and thought more about, using these instruments for a specific purpose, you know? So now when I get a call from someone that says, hey, we're making this bluegrass record and it's kind of jazz influenced or it's kind of this, and they send me the demo and it sounds really bright and modern and new or whatever, maybe I'll reach for the Yamaha instead of just forcing one guitar into every scenario. You know, I'm cool with letting them play to their strengths, and the Yamaha is fitting in just fine.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? I mean, when you're recording, what's your process for recording acoustics? Because do you just put one mic in front of it, or what's that?
So it's two mics. I record them in stereo. Usually something like a Neumann KM84, like a pair of those, or I have kind of a set of KM84 clones. I hate to even call them clones. They're made by this company, Brett Teagarden in Nashville, and they're similar to a KM84, but they're great. I mean, they hold up really well, and so I've been using those a lot. And then, you know, a lot of what I do is just session work and remote session work at that. A lot of it's at my studio. So I'm just sending out raw files. You know, I'm not doing a bunch of rack gear and a bunch of EQing and stuff. I'm sending mostly raw files, and those, you know, they're great for that. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I've probably played the Yamaha on like, I don't know, probably like 5 or 6 records since I got it or something, maybe probably more. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's really great to hear.
Yeah.
Because I always think about once these instruments are laid down and people hear it, like it becomes part of, I don't know, the journey of sound.
Well, it's cool. Like you can have a guitar, you know, there's been a lot of guitars that I've owned that have never made it anywhere that are part of my story, right? So like I had this really great, well, I won't give the name, but I had a really great guitar made by a luthier back here in West Virginia that I played for a really long time, but it was kind of in a drought of session work for me. And I don't think it ever made it on any recordings or anything. So it's like, that was my sound for a while, but it doesn't read that way because you don't ever hear that guitar anywhere. And so, yeah, like, and now I try to, anytime I get a new guitar and I try to at least get it on some sessions or get it on a demo or something, just so it's like, I'm trying to use these things and give an accurate picture of like what my sound is at any given time. So
that's cool. What does 2023 look like for you? What are you going to be doing? And
the rest of my year is pretty well done and booked, as well as a lot of next year. So working on a record now that I wish I was further along with, but I can't help it. Just sometimes it goes quick and sometimes not. And then, I'm coming to do some stuff for you guys. I'm doing the Fretboard Summit, and then I'm doing, I'm going to South Africa in September. I'm going to London in November. Got the homestay students. I got sessions. I got whatever. So, like, to me at this point, it feels like the year is over. Like, there's no more surprises. Looking at the calendar, I'm like, I know exactly every day from here to next year where I'm going to be. And so,
is there something that you'd like to focus? I mean, you do everything. You teach and you do clinics, and you play your performances and you record and you help others. Is there like something you like better, or do you like putting all those irons in different fires?
I mean, I'm just a player, man, really. And if someone wants to learn from me, I like that. I think that's fulfilling, but I'm not interested in being a great guitar teacher. Some people say I am, and that's great. And I love to teach, but I just want to play and keep progressing on my instrument forever and ever. And whatever that entails to make it work financially is fine. But I don't, my real focus, what I think about every morning and every night, is just playing and what it means to play the instrument and what I want to sound like and how I can make it happen.
Wow. So when Jake Eddy wakes up and plays the guitar, like, so what is that the first thing you grab in the morning, is a guitar or?
I have like my morning routine has been the same largely for my entire life. So it's out of bed, take the dog out, and shower first. I can't do anything unless I've had the morning shower and the whatever, like some juice or coffee or whatever. And then it's guitar in hand, and usually stays that way until the day is over.
It's amazing.
But that's kind of the rare occurrence where I'm actually home and have the opportunity to do nothing all day. But it's the same deal kind of if I'm on the road. It's, it's either, you play all morning and then you play the show at night or whatever. But the guitar is in my hands the majority of always, really.
Majority of always.
Yeah.
That's your next album title.
Yeah, write that down.
There's something I really like about the bluegrass scene and the folk scene, because it's not where I'm from, but Yamaha, when we were kind of, a few years ago, when we knew we were doing this project and I needed to start working with some roots music and Folk Alliance, those kind of artists, right. Just how welcoming everyone is. And, I think Jordan Tice said there's no, there's no wall between the artist and the audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like you can go to any bluegrass festival, any bluegrass show pretty much in the country and meet the artist, and that's, kind of due in part to, a lot of bluegrass artists have resisted the traditional label manager publicist setup. They have their own way of doing things. Even though those people are involved, it doesn't look the same as it would in a rock band or something like that. So yeah, and a lot of, and shit, man, a lot of the bluegrass musicians are kind of self-starters in a way. Like they're still, even the big ones, a lot of them are kind of doing some of their own booking or some of their own negotiating with labels or whatever. There's not as many people as involved always. I think that's a good thing.
I mean, do you ever see yourself, getting an assistant, a manager?
I have an assistant. Yeah. And I've had 3 or 4 agents over the years that inevitably, go down in a fireball. But Yeah, I mean, I have a small team of a few people that can handle everything that I need, and you know, everybody from kind of like, yeah, publicist, agent, assistant, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, I love working with you because you've got that energy. All the greats, they have this thing where it's just this internal drive, and they can run through brick walls and
Yeah.
never slow down. And
Well, even you can see that just working with us. Like, have you ever dealt with my assistant at all?
no.
Right. So, because I just met you guys, like I met you guys. If she met you guys, then she would deal with you. But I've maintained our relationship, and I think it's easier that way because sometimes I think I know, like I don't want to say that I know better, but I do think I have more of a pulse on what, like I know what kind of deals, what kind of relationships feel good to me, and I think the people on my team or on any team, they try really hard to get that, but sometimes it's just I feel better if I'm in control, and maybe that's just an issue of like I should delegate more or whatever. But it just I don't know. I know what I want, and I think I can communicate that better than anyone.
Yeah. And you're not, yeah. I mean, sometimes the assistants and the managers, they're great doing the business deals and negotiations. But
Yeah,
yeah, when it comes to like, they are tools. So that is a perk of, what we do is we're supplying great artists with the tools, and
sure,
they get to make the music with them, not
sure.
us. Well, cool. I mean, is there anything else you kind of want to mention or talk about or promote?
Man, I don't know. Nothing comes to mind. I'm glad to be here though. It's good to see you.
To you, as
I
always.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always doing my like homestay program thing, which it's like it's tough to advertise that because it's just so rare to like. There's only so many spots, and it's kind of always booked for eternity. But yeah, I mean, I take students here at my home for like long stays where they can study under me in a, more like old school mentor type situation, and then I'll be on tour some and. Um,
Yeah, I think that.
Whatever. The people who want to see me, they know they'll be there.
But if you've got the money and the time and the tenacity, you can go to Jake's house for the weekend and have really like an in-depth experience of both living in West Virginia and
Yeah,
and learning some top-notch picking. So
it's intense, man. We just got off of I think 5 straight weeks of students living here,
wow.
which is a lot, and it was great. But I'm glad to have a few weeks off here to chill.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what does your great wife Taryn think of all the guests coming
She's
in?
great. Thank God for her. She's she likes people too. Kind of in a different way, right? Like she's not teaching them anything. She's more of an observer, if anything. But she, we get attached to these people. It's funny. Like some of the students, whatever, they come and go, and you don't hear from them again, and that's probably the normal thing. But there's some students that have stuck around that we've really became friends with, and like that we'll see from time to time and stay in touch with, and yeah, so it's really good. I mean, and it's just something new all the time. Like if a lot of times if both of like my wife and I are both kind of self-employed, not kind of, we are. And it can be a lot to be stuck in the house all the time. So having people here is great. It's just a different thing. It keeps it interesting. It keeps us on our toes. But I'm glad to have a little break for sure.
That's awesome. So what's the best way to get a hold of you or see your stuff on? Is it on Instagram or?
Yeah, Instagram is the best. That's just at the Jake Eddy, and my email that I don't really answer, but someone will answer it at the Jake Eddy at Gmail.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, Jake, it was great seeing you. It was great talking with you. Thanks everyone watching for joining My Guitar Breakthrough, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Scott. See you guys.
Jake.